Final judgment on Brian Williams. Yes, he lied. Let me show you a recent tape that came out about his helicopter story in Iraq. And you'll see here that it's not just an exaggeration or conflating things. Watch.
I've been very, very lucky the way my life has turned out. I've been very lucky to have survived a few things that I've been involved in. At a reception a few minutes ago, I was remembering something I tend to forget, the war with Hezbollah in Israel a few years back, where there were Katyusha rockets passing just underneath the helicopter I was riding in. A few years before that, you go back to Iraq, and I looked down the tube of an RPG that had been fired at us, and it hit the chopper in front of ours. And I'm so fortunate to be sitting here.
Turns out that chopper was at least half an hour ahead of you, so it would have been hard to look down the tube of the RPG. That lie's a little too specific. Now, having said that, what difference does it make? It's a tiny little lie in the midst of the Iraq war when the whole war was a monstrous lie that was peddled by all of the mainstream press, including NBC News. So if you're willing to hire all the editors and executives who push that lie upon us, great. Then fire Brian Williams along with the rest of them. In fact, 69% of Americans thought that Saddam Hussein was personally responsible for 9/11. That's the entire media doing an abhorrent job. So they're all at fault for much larger issues. Now, the other part of this is that all of this is irrelevant anyway. We have an expert named Mark Feldstein who covers the media, and he's a professor, and he said, I don't know how he can ever read the news with a straight face or how the public will respond if he does, referring to a 6-month suspension, which NBC News just handed down. But he reads the news. He's a news reader. Literally, he reads a script off a prompter. Who cares who's reading it? Brian Williams, Lester Holt, it's not like they went and got the news themselves. Their producers do that, or most likely they get it out of the papers and then just rewrite it and read it on television. So it's irrelevant who reads the news. They're not news anchors, they're news actors. None of them have any credibility. None of the old media have credibility to begin with, let alone that particular news actor reading you the news. Mark Feldstein says also maybe they're hoping that with a 6-month cooling off period, he's got a loyal fan base. What fan base? Which news anchor has a fan base? None of them do. They go with dispassionate, they go with neutrality. They don't tell you what the real news is. They say he said, she said. Republicans say this, Democrats say that. Well, of course you don't have a fan base if you're going to do that. That's why, unfortunately, right now for Brian Williams, nobody's got his back. Look, what they have is leftover viewers. The people who are watching them because they've been watching them and they're used to watching them. They're not getting any new viewers. They're not getting any young viewers. So in the end, yes, Brian Williams might be done. Overall, he's certainly going to be going away for 6 months. But the entire old media is done. Nobody trusts them anymore. They're not getting any younger viewers because they lost our trust. Whether it was the Iraq war or all of these stories, the way that they covered it and weren't watchdogs of the government, but lapdogs instead. So in essence, they're all done.